Hey, Don Williams here with today's episode of the Proven Entrepreneur Show. I have a real treat, a great guest, great friend, all the way from Detroit, Michigan, where it's much cooler than it is here in Fort Worth, Texas. Okay, Todd Palmer, welcome to the show.
Oh, Don, thank you so much for having me. It was a comfortable 92 degrees yesterday.
Oh, we saw 92 twice yesterday. Once as we went past at about 12 degrees, and once when we came below it, maybe 4 degrees or something like that. So, anyhow, this show is like Texas is going to be hot, hot, hot because got my good friend Todd Palmer, affectionately known as the Todd Father,
There you
and so
go.
so Todd, tell me a little bit about your current business and what you're doing now, what's getting your time, what's getting your attention, and then we'll get into your story.
Well, one, thank you for asking. My current business is extraordinaryadvisors.com, in where I coach CEOs on a journey on how to explore themselves in order to grow their businesses and even bigger, grow their lives. My model is based on a thing called reflective inquiry, where we are the cause of, and the great part is the solution to all of our problems. It's really coaching a person, not necessarily coaching a great process like an EOS or scaling up, both needed processes, where I really get into the ick of who you are, what's holding you back, preventing you from what you do, what you want to do. And the second part of my business is I run anywhere from 30 to 40 forum retreats per year, where I work with a group of forum members, a mastermind group, teach them techniques to get deeper coaching, create those deeper connections within that group, allowing them to support each other to get to higher levels.
And let me just tell you, Todd is an expert in his field. And so if you have any need for that, please reach out to Todd directly. Okay, now I'm going to take you all the way back to 5-year-old Todd.
Ah,
Yeah, so that is way back. Okay, well, not way back for you, but it's back a ways. Okay, and so 5 to 18 in the household where you were raised, and that's different for different people. But was there an entrepreneur? Was there an adult who was an entrepreneur that set an entrepreneurial example for you as a young Todd?
great question. No one's ever asked me that question. Love that. There was not. Both of my parents were auto workers living in Detroit, not a surprise.
Yeah.
My older brother, 12 years older, was an executive, both East Coast, West Coast, New York, Los Angeles. So no, there really wasn't that. But what I will share with you, kind of a vulnerable share, hopefully that's something you're open to,
Sure.
is at 5 years old, I lost my dad. He passed
Oh,
away.
sorry to hear that.
And what the story I told myself was that the only person I can rely on is me, which
Mhm.
is, if you think about it from an entrepreneurial thought process, is wonderful when we're startups. I'm HR, I'm sales, I'm ops, I'm accounting. I can do it all. There's a limit to that, I found. And I put the glass ceiling in there because I wouldn't trust others, because I didn't trust myself. And it was a very interesting evolution for me as an entrepreneur, that I realized that, again, was both the cause of and the solution to my problems, because my struggle to scale was I didn't know how to trust but verify. I didn't know how to put proper rules of engagement in, because at 5 years old, I told myself I'm the only one who can rely upon. So it took a lot of coaching. I was blessed to work with two great coaches. Last one was Dr. Danny Friedland, neuroscientist, who helped me understand that at 5 years old, I made a decision that I carried forward into my 40s.
Love that. Now, so I want to ask you a question because trust, as we know, is foundational to all selling relationships, all leadership
Mm-hmm.
relationships, basically all relationships. Okay. No trust, no relationship. So when you said, I, um, I didn't trust myself, was that you didn't trust yourself to trust others?
100% great catch. I didn't trust others because the story I told myself, which was just the story in my head, my itty bitty shitty committee having a meeting. You can't trust others because you don't trust you, because you picked those people to be in your life. You chose that employee. You went after that client engagement. When in the true reality was none of that was really true. It was getting out of my way to learn how to put proper boundaries in place so that trust could be earned. Trust shouldn't be given out freely like Halloween candy. Trust should be earned over time. And there are certain groups of people in the EO community, which you and I spent a lot of our years in, where there's a group of people that are so trustworthy that they are the people you will go to war with. You take that outside of the bigger part of EO, maybe those people aren't as trustworthy. They're trustworthy to a point, but the relationships aren't as deep because the connection isn't as deep, because the trust isn't as deep as the group you've earned it with. So I definitely played a huge part in not trusting others, and realizing what my part was allowed me to create a bigger network to connect with people like you and others so that I could deepen those relationships, create those deeper connections, which makes a more fulfilling life.
I love that. And, here's just an aside on trust. I believe trust is a bridge built gradually, okay, and destroyed it within an instant. And
Mm-hmm.
so it takes a long time, or it takes time, maybe not a long time, but it takes time to build that bridge, and only takes an instant to destroy it. So
So true. So
thank,
true.
thank you for taking me all the way back to 5-year-old Todd. Probably been a day since you thought about 5-year-old Todd. And so appreciate that. Okay. So now tell me about, so you're still in your schoolboy years, your first job, and that might have been a lemonade stand. You might have been an entrepreneur as your first job. That was not my case. But what's the first activity you did where you traded time, effort, and energy for commerce, for money?
Great question. So I grew up in a very small town. I grew up on a farm in mid-Michigan. I had 42 kids in my high school graduating class. Like
Wow.
we're talking like John Cougar Mellencamp writes songs about the town I grew up in. And in our town, we had literally one grocery store, and that grocery store sold candy. And I had an allowance, so I would take my $5 and I'd spend it all on candy, which then I would go to my school and upsell for $15 over the course of the day. Fireballs and different candy bars and what have you. And I remember very distinctly, this had been about 7th, 8th grade, and I got called into the principal's office because I was taking advantage of others, where you and I would argue, hey, there's marketplace conditions, there's opportunity. Why wouldn't we seize those? And I remember my mom came in and she's like, so supportive of me. I didn't get like, I can't believe you embarrassed me. Your the family name. No, she's like, well, but what's he doing that's wrong? If the kids, if he buys it for a nickel and he sells it for a quarter, what do you really care? Well, he's taking advantage of others, So that was a really important lesson for me to learn as an entrepreneur, that family support is super key. And also, just because others don't see opportunities in the marketplace doesn't mean I can't see them. So literally my first job was selling candy at school.
And you're literally just capitalizing on location, no different than why the hamburger is $30 at the top of the ski mountain and $7 at the bottom.
Oh yeah, if I go to the
Strictly,
ballpark in Arlington, a beer is what, $10. With the same beer across the street at the bar is $2. Location,
ex-
location, location.
exactly. So love that. Okay, after your schoolboy years, okay, you went to university, you backpacked across Europe, you joined the Merchant Marine, you joined the Marines. What's your story? Where'd you go?
So graduated from college. It was just my mom and I, a single parent household, not a lot of money. Um, and I had two routes I could have gone. I had a basketball opportunity to go play Division III, and I had the local community college was giving out what they call talent scholarships. So my talent, in quotes, was writing. And I know you and I have both written books, but my goal was really to be a journalist. I wanted to be a writer, and I realized I'm 6 feet tall. I don't jump very high, and my basketball skills had a glass ceiling at 17 that I was very clear on. And so I took the route to go and get a talent scholarship, which was the perfect choice for me. I spent 2 years at junior college getting my basics out of the way. And because I had a talent scholarship, it was free. And I met a great department head of my department for the English department by the name of Mark Harris. And Mark Harris saw things in me that no one had seen before. He goes, try this, do this. So I got to make a movie. I got to spread my wings on a creative side. And I really got a chance to enjoy not just the academic experience, which was fine, but I got to explore the learning. And I always tell kids this: learning is way beyond the classroom, and
Sure.
doing different things. And I was the newspaper editor for a year, and to lead others at 19 years old. I'm not really sure I was leading them. I think it was just the blind leading the blind at that stage, but it was a huge opportunity. Then I went to Eastern Michigan University, completed my degree there, and I had a second branch point decision where I could go into, I got married very young. Fully, as my son, when he listens to this, will know, the marriage did not work, but it produced my favorite human being, my son, Tyler. But I had a branch point choice where I had gotten an opportunity to go teach at university, or I could go into the business world. Well, at the time I was married and my then wife was making an income we could survive on, I actually taught college for 2 years as a part-time basis as I was working towards my master's and my PhD. Then I got custody of my son and made the choice, the first really big real life decision, like, I'm going to not pursue this because I need to make enough money to provide for a household of 2. And I don't regret that decision. That would have been age 22, 23. And so I put my academics piece on hold, but I think I'm still a writer at heart. I think I'm still a teacher at heart in the work I get to do today.
I love that. And I didn't know that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
So I know you've founded a couple companies. Tell us about the first company that you founded and how that ended up.
How that ended up. First company I started at 27 years old for $15,000 in credit card debt. It was a company called Diversified Staffing Services, generic staffing, temp help, Metro Detroit. Unemployment rate was about 3 to 4%. So if you could find a person to put to work, there was always opportunities. Got off to a rapid start, turned profit day 72, and thought I really had it all figured out. Because again, what we don't know, is what we don't know. Fast forward, change the name of the company from Diversified Staffing Services to Diversified Industrial Staffing, get more brand focused, more niche specific. And with it so I started in 97. By 2006, on paper, I was bankrupt. The bank called my note. And as I wrote about in my book, From Suck to Success, they literally said, you have 60 days of cash left, and we are going to begin collection processes against you, and we are prepared to take your home. So that business grew rapidly. I got into EO in 03, but by 06, I was bankrupt, and I didn't know how to read my finances because, again, I have to know everything, going back to my childhood story. So I wasn't telling anybody. I wasn't telling my forum. I wasn't telling my staff. And when I hired my first coach, he's like, yeah, you're in really bad shape. You should strongly consider bankruptcy. And I remember saying to him very clearly, I can't file bankruptcy because I know within me, I have not done my best, and I'm accountable to this. Just like I told my son when he wanted to quit football, he hadn't done his best. We can only quit something when we do our best in our household. And by 2013, I paid off all the debt, and the business grew even better. Got all the bad players out of the way. I became a better leader, and we made the Inc. 5000 6 times in 7 years as Detroit's fastest growing company. So that's the beginning, middle, and end of the Diversified Industrial Staffing saga.
I love that. Okay, so still in that business?
No, I exited that company 6 years ago. Now I just do the speaking, the coaching, and the retreat facilitation.
Awesome.
And write books.
And write books. Yeah, love that. Okay, thinking back across your career, I'm looking for a hard lesson, and I know that there's been more than a couple, probably. in my case,
just a few.
I got a note from a friend the other day that said, if you can't look at your past and see what an idiot you are, you're probably still an idiot. And
Yep.
which my comment was, I can look at yesterday sometimes and see what an idiot I was. And so, anyhow, hard lesson, something that happened that when it happened, it was a gut punch that hurt. But maybe in retrospect, now that some time has elapsed, you're able to have some distance and look back on that and say, man, that was really painful. But in the long run, maybe that was the best thing that could have happened. Do you have a lesson like that you can share, Todd?
Absolutely. I was running a retreat, and a gentleman asked me a very similar question. Do you regret that you almost went out of business? Do you regret the decisions you made in your mid-30s? And I said, no, I don't regret them because they were all the lessons I learned. And I said, I wouldn't be here today working with your forum if I hadn't learned those lessons. And the biggest thing I got out of it was I was chasing a number. Man, I had to be 20 million. That was the number. And I didn't care how I got there. I was cutting bad deals. I was given bad terms. I was given 120-day payment terms. That bit me square in the butt. I had a client go bankrupt for $242,000.
Ouch.
And because I gave them huge payment terms, I didn't know how to watch that. Oh, we'll pay you, we'll pay you, we'll pay you. I didn't realize that there was a financing strategy to offload all your employees to a third-party vendor and then close shop, and you can discharge them in bankruptcy. I didn't know that. But I've heard this said many times. Revenue is vanity, profits are sanity. And I was running, a $10 million company and not making any money. But I was chasing that 20, and it's like, no, you've got to focus on the margin. One lesson it was painful for me to learn is margin business. I mean, I was a staffing company, but in the reality, I was a finance company because I was letting everybody give me their bad debt. I was the Statue of Liberty of staffing. Give me your huddled masses and your terrible credit ratings, and I will work with you. And it was the most painful thing that I ever learned. When I did my turnaround, we took our payment terms from 120 days to 7. And we boosted our margin by almost 18%. That's how I got out of debt. I mean, I got paid faster and I got paid more. Had to change the model, had to change our market, didn't go after the whale accounts anymore. But man, that was an incredibly painful lesson.
But it wasn't like learning to speak Russian. It wasn't, you made 2 fundamental changes to your accounts receivable system. Okay. And I don't belittle that, but actually pretty simple.
Oh yeah.
Things, maybe hard to do, but simple to identify and know that this is what we should do, and made all the difference. And so many times, I think with entrepreneurs and maybe just people in general, everybody does the big things pretty well, but it's the little things that make the big difference.
And it was the mindset I had to go through because I wanted to be liked. I wanted to get I liked getting the bigger accounts. I liked the big yeses and the celebrations. I had to be okay with telling people no. There's a great book out there called The Power of the Positive No, which sits with my deepest yes. My deepest yes is I got to get out of debt and I got to make money. So no, I can't give you those payment terms, and no, I can't give you that price. What I will do are give you these payment terms and this pricing, and what we'll do is we'll change the way we work with you in a way to measure the relationship differently. So if you're just looking at us as a commodity provider, price only, what if instead we not look at price, but take a look at your turnover ratio and create a model? We took a client on that did 120% turnover. So every time we sent them 10 people, 12 walked out the back door. We got that down to 40%. And they made a lot more money based upon consistency, reliability, and dependability of their employees. Changed everything for them. But we weren't going to budge on our price. We just couldn't. But we showed them a different value prop, sales 101. We showed them a different value prop, and that made a huge difference. But we had to be okay. I, as a leader, had to be okay with telling them no, sticking to my guns, knowing why I was doing it, and then messaging that not only to the customer, but also to my internal staff that this is why we're doing this. And it went to the core value exercise of we improve lives. Well, one of the lives we have to improve is ours. So we got the customer, we got the candidates as a recruiting company, we also have the internal staff. We have to improve our lives, and you all want raises, and you all want vacations, and you all want bonus programs, and you all want trips, all that great stuff. That's got to be paid for, and it's got to be paid for out of profits. This is the decision. This is why we're doing it. Once that was explained, and we even shared that with the client, like this is how we have to operate. It created not just a transactional relationship, but a real relationship.
I've always believed that the more a client understands the supplier and the more the supplier understands the client, the better everything works.
100%.
Total transparency works. And, there's a common thread in our talk today about leadership. And so, earlier you mentioned, hey, we're part of a group where there are certain people in that group that, you would do anything for, and others that, and maybe we just don't know them well enough, but that we probably wouldn't go to that extreme. And so, one of my beliefs is that there are great leaders and there are separately people in positions of leadership, and they're not necessarily the same thing. And so encourage our listeners to work to be the best leader you can be, not just to own a position of leadership and think that you're doing a great job.
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely. We call them. You got the person who's got the title.
Yeah.
I'm a big sports guy. You can see by my background. You got Bill Belichick is the coach of the New England Patriots. Tom Brady was the leader of the clubhouse. The two of them had to find a way to work together. One was, it's who's the leader in your clubhouse, and then who would be Tom Brady's offensive leader, his defensive, his special, who are his go-to guys to control the chaos of an NFL locker room. It's no different than an entrepreneurial environment. Pride, ego, narcissism all permeates through that community, just like with entrepreneurs. You got your stated leader, Bill Belichick, but you got Tom, you got the guys on offense, the guys on defense to make sure the system runs appropriately. And picking those people is somewhere between an art and a science for Belichick to do. And going back to what you said, trust is earned over time. I mean, he and Brady worked together for 12, 15 years. That's a long relationship.
Long relationship and an eternal relationship in the NFL. I mean,
yes.
That just doesn't. Yeah. That just doesn't happen. The players remain the same, but typically they change.
It's a revolving door.
They change brands. Yeah. So to speak. Okay. So, all right. Thank you for that. Now I'm looking for a warp speed moment. So things are going pretty good in your business, either this business or your previous business. Things are going pretty good. And then all of a sudden, a couple key decisions, a key hire, and all of a sudden you are on that hockey stick of growth. It's just like, wow, I didn't know it could go this good, this fast. Do you have a warp speed moment you could share?
I do. With the recruiting company, I realized that I was only good at a few things, which was very pride swallowing at one point. And one of the things that I realized I wasn't really good at was training my recruiters. I just want you to watch by osmosis, and then I would show off, and it didn't work well. So I actually found the best trainer in the recruiting space, I think, a guy named Danny Cahill out in Connecticut, and I would send every single one of my new hires there with their manager to his boot camp 3 times a year. Very expensive, but I want to invest in the people to get the best for them, and we needed one training methodology, one messaging across the company. So anytime if you were to call in, whoever picked up the phone answered it the same way with the same message across lines. I'm an entrepreneur. I like to break the rules. I understood the value of the rules and I would follow them with the team, but I needed to outsource that and bring in somebody better. The second piece, when we hockey sticked and made Inc. 6 or 7 years, was to get out of the way and bring in an integrator to do the stuff I was bad at. By when we were at Flying High, I had 2 responsibilities: big relationships, vision, and accounting reported to me. That was it. And my integrator reported to me. We're friends. I'll tell you the truth. Sometimes I would go in and create chaos and talk to the team and confuse them. And then my integrator would call my coach. He would call me up and say, get back in your sandbox and quit screwing everybody up with your visionary nonsense. Stay your course. Your company's diversified industrial staffing, not diversified medical staffing. Yes, you could go staff nurses. Yes, you could go staff accountants. Stay in your lane. Own your very tight vertical niche. Okay, you're right. But once I empowered her to be in charge, empowered her to run her teams as she saw fit, which was not how I would have run them. It's amazing once I got out of the way how the business grew beyond my skill set.
Very similar experience. My vice president of operations for years has since retired, but on any given day, I think I could outperform whatever we were doing on any given day. But day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, quarter in, quarter out, he just ran circles around me because in the short term, I can bring some magic, I can bring some brilliance, I can bring a spark, but it's hard on people to have that every day, and it's really hard to deliver that every day. That's hard. Okay, so. All right, so this is kind of personal. Okay, sorry, but not really. If I was able to look into your mind, and in the chapter titled "These Gold Nuggets I Know," okay, so things that are so huge to your makeup, to your belief system, would you share one nugget with us that we'd want to know if we knew what you knew?
Yeah. Appreciate the directness of the question. A lot of leaders want the greatest performances from their teams. They want people to step up and be amazing. What the leaders often struggle with is being vulnerable first. In order to change your organization, in order for me to change my company, the first place I needed to make the change was within me. And that was really hard. I was really good at pointing the finger and blaming the economy, blaming the marketplace. I mean, it's really easy to blame Detroit during a recession when it's on 60 Minutes filing for bankruptcy. That's, oh, I've got a bunch of external excuses. It's not me, it's them. It was me. And so for a leader, if you want vulnerability from your team, you want to have a psychologically safe work environment, you have to demo that, and you have to live it, and you have to breathe it, and you have to be the person to lead and be vulnerable first. And that I've seen across almost every leader I've ever worked with is the hardest thing for them to do. And part of that being vulnerable is to ask for what you want, why you want it, how others can contribute versus just do as I say, which still, unfortunately, still comes out quite a bit. So for me, Brene Brown 101 is to lead with vulnerability.
Love that. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to ask you the tough question, but before we do, okay, we can see 792 baseballs behind you. What's the story with 792 baseballs?
I am a baseball nerd. I still play baseball, as you know.
Yeah.
And baseball for me is a sport, the only sport I know of, that where if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're a success.
Oh, you're in the Hall of Fame.
Right. Well, imagine if we ran our businesses and we failed 70% of the time. That'd be tough. Now, unless we're in an iterative loop where we fail every day to fail forward, that makes total sense to me. Love that model. So for me, as a kid, baseball was my favorite sport. It's something that you can take. I know you go to a lot of Rangers games, and you can sit there with your lovely wife and be visiting, have friends around, watch the action. It's not end-to-end action where you have to be paying attention 100% of the time from a social aspect. And it's just one of those things where I've met a lot of professional athletes, a lot of professional baseball players, and they never master the sport. They never master it. And you can be hot, you can go cold things. And it's one of those sports where I think just the parallels to business and baseball and life in regarding that you have to be a lifelong learner. It's never going to get mastered. It's a team sport controlled by the pitcher and the hitter, and nothing happens until the pitcher releases the ball and then the hitter takes an action. I mean, it's not football where you got 12, 24 guys going back and forth and different things like that. So to me, it's just always been something that I've really enjoyed. And but through the blessings of a lot of cool opportunities, I've met a lot of guys to get them to sign my baseballs.
Awesome. Love that. And so I was just at a game last week with some good friends, the Tips, and in their suite, and we enjoyed the game with Pudge Rodriguez.
Very cool.
He joined us, super guy, Hall of Fame catcher, but he didn't hit 1,000 either. He hit 310 or whatever. But that's Hall of Fame stuff,
Yeah. Well, you got to learn how to deal with failing. You could strike I had this happen last week. I struck a ball as good as I'm going to hit it. Shortstop happened to be standing right there. I'm not going to hit the ball any better.
Yeah.
Next at bat, I hit it off the end of the bat, curls over the first baseman, hits the chalk. It's a double. The first one was a much better hit.
Yeah.
Baseball, but the result was just differently. So how do we manage through all those things? And, I remember when Pudge came to Detroit and we were a terrible team. By 2006, we're in the World Series because of him and Maglio and Verlander and those guys. And they just, it's an amazing thing to spend times with somebody. So Mickey Mantle had this quote. He goes, I played, 19 years. I went hitless however many times. He goes, basically 5 of my 19 years, I didn't get a hit.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that to me is parallel to the entrepreneurial journey in baseball is this. Baseball's a game of ones. One hit, one error, one strike, one passed ball, one dropped ball, one catch over the wall. So many games are decided by one something.
Mm-hmm.
And entrepreneurship is also a game many times ultimately decided by one something. It's that one phone call from that client that is a $5 million client. It's
Yeah.
that engages, or conversely, that $5 million client that calls and fires you.
Yeah.
It's the one key hire. It's the one. I know I'm not good at training. I'm going to get the best trainer I can find on the planet. It's going to cost me a ton, but I'm going to ship people to see him every year. Okay. And we're going to actually have a brand. Okay. If we can keep me from talking to people, because
Yeah.
I'm not going to be on brand.
Nope.
I'm on the Todd Palmer brand. I'm not really on the company brand.
Some days.
And that's just how we are. So love that. Okay. So toughest question I ask the average proven entrepreneur. And, the name of the show is Proven Entrepreneur Success Stories. You've shared some failings. We know that failings are, in fact, part of the success journey. They are not the opposite of the success journey. But toughest question I ask, I'm going to put you in a time machine. Okay. Going to take you all the way back to 20-year-old Todd. Okay. Can you picture him?
Mm-hmm.
I had more hair and it was brown. Okay. And I weighed less. And so I'm going to take you all the way back to 20-year-old Todd. You're going to get 60 to 90 seconds to share one or two thoughts with Todd that would have sped you, helped you along your path. Okay. So into the time machine you go, all the way back. Here's 20-year-old Todd. Todd, what do you say to Todd?
I love the question. I would say to 20-year-old Todd that don't let your imposter syndrome drive your business. Don't let your itty bitty shitty committee and your self-talk be an anchor to your success. That you are, you have more capabilities, you have more knowledge than you realize. And at the end of the day, it's failure, to your point, is actually just a word in the dictionary. So I used to think, God, I'm a failure, I'm a failure, I'm a failure, I'm a failure. Failure is nothing more than a word in the dictionary. If you take the word failure and replace it with the word learning, you'll be using the highest functioning part of your brain. Dr. Danny Friedland 101, use the highest functioning part of your brain as often as you possibly can. So that would be the gift I'd give me, is like, don't be your biggest critic. It doesn't serve you well. Recognize that imposter syndrome is part of what you're going to have fears and internal concerns. Realize that failure isn't permanent. Failure is actually not really real. It's just a word in the dictionary. And if you take failure, replace it with learning, that you'll be unstoppable, because learning is a never-ending iterative process.
I love that. And so one thing I share with my clients, and you and I kind of live in parallel universes, okay? But one thing I share with my clients is, hey, either you win or you learn.
Right.
And learning is just slower winning. And
I've never heard it called that. I love that. Learning is just slower winning. I love that.
Learning is just slower winning. And so, okay, so tell us again, how do we reach out to you? And let me just tell the audience, Todd Palmer, phenomenal speaker, phenomenal facilitator. Okay, you would do yourself well to bring Todd to your organization. So how do we reach out to you, Todd?
Yeah, simplest way is to reach me out via my website, or just email me at todd@extraordinaryadvisors.com. If anybody's interested in my book, From Suck to Success, if you send me an email, I'm happy to send you a free chapter. Or if I even have some free copies of my audiobook, and I can send you the whole book for free. The book for me was an opportunity to pay back all those that helped me along my journey. Being an entrepreneur, as you know, Don, is not a journey we take often by ourselves very successfully, and we get the people around us. And so I'm always giver's gain. And so if anybody emails me, reaches out to me, I'm happy to support you in any way I possibly can.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd. Okay, folks, that's today's episode of the Proven Entrepreneur Show with Todd Palmer. See you next time. Bye now.